Have you ever felt like you're moving, but not really advancing? Like you're caught in a loop. The same habits, the same routines, the same expectations, day after day. What if I told you that most people will stay trapped in life, and that trap isn't made of bars or walls, but of invisible patterns that keep you from your potential? I'm here to tell you we'll explore that today with the lens of Brendon Burchard, one of the world's leading high-performance thinkers. He asked the raw question, did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? And he reveals how many of us are living, loving, and doing, but not truly mattering, not truly ascending. Trapped means more than being stuck in a job you hate. It means you're living by default, letting others write your story, following expectations that aren't yours, and carrying a quiet regret that one day you'll look back and ask, what if? In this video, you will learn why so many people never break out of this loop, with lesser-known truths that aren't on the surface. What Brendon Burchard has discovered after decades of coaching top performers and survivors from a near-fatal accident that woke him to life's fragility. How to spot the sneaky traps in your own life that masquerade as comfort, productivity, even purpose. A powerful shift in mindset. Uncommon, practical, and transformational that can pull you from stuck to unstoppable. Stay with me until the end, because I'll show you not only how you escape, but how you stay free. You'll see what it looks like to wake up inside your own life rather than sleepwalking through someone else's version of it. We'll talk clarity, drive, emotional state, attention, and most importantly, the convictions that fuel real freedom. These aren't buzzwords. These are the habits of greatness, habits that Brendon Burchard insists are the difference between people who settle and people who soar. So if you're ready to swap the invisible chains for intentional motion, if you're done bending to the will of routine or expectation, if you're ready to live, to love, to matter, then you're in the right place. Welcome to Habits of Greatness. I'm Brendon. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe now so you won't miss a moment of this journey. Let's begin. Before we talk about the steps to freedom, we need to understand what being trapped really looks like, because most people don't even realize they're in it. They think this is just life. They call it normal. They tell themselves, everyone feels this way, but the truth is the trap is silent, invisible, and it grows stronger the longer you ignore it. It starts when you wake up and feel a quiet heaviness before the day even begins. You already know what's coming, the same morning routine, the same commute, the same faces, the same tasks that never seem to end. And deep down, there's this whisper, is this all there is? But you brush it away because there's no time to think about that. You've got things to do. That's how the trap works. It convinces you that motion equals meaning, that being busy equals being alive. But they're not the same thing. You can move all day and still go nowhere. You can be surrounded by people and still feel like you're not seen. You can check 100 boxes on your to-do list and still feel empty. Brendon Burchard says that the first sign you're trapped is when you realize you're living someone else's story. Maybe it's your parents' version of success. Maybe it's society's script. Get the job, buy the house, play it safe, stay in line. Maybe it's the expectations of people who stopped dreaming a long time ago and now they're telling you to do the same. He reminds us, if you don't write your own story, someone else will. And most of us, without noticing, hand over the pen. We let the world decide who we should be, what we should want, and how far we should go. And then one day we wake up in a life that doesn't feel like ours. You might have done everything right. You studied hard, worked hard, achieved what others expected, but the more you climb, the more hollow it feels. You keep thinking, when I get there, it'll make sense, but there keeps moving, like a finish line you can never reach. That's not ambition. That's entrapment, disguised as progress. Brendon often shares that he once lived that way too. Before he became one of the most influential high-performance coaches in the world, he felt lost. He was young, uncertain, chasing approval more than purpose. Then, after a near-fatal accident, he asked himself 3 questions that changed everything. Did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? In that moment, he realized he had been surviving, not living. Moving, but not advancing. Achieving, but not becoming. That's what being trapped looks like. It's when you're constantly running, but you don't know where you're running to. It's when your days are full, but your soul is empty. It's when every decision feels like an obligation instead of a choice. You're not free, you're on autopilot, and yet the world rewards you for it. People praise you for being so busy. You tell friends you're grinding, hustling, making it happen, but deep down you know you're just circling the same loop. You wake up, go to work, come home tired, scroll for an hour, sleep, repeat. Weeks turn into months, months into years. You start forgetting what you wanted in the first place. Brendon says this is one of the most dangerous illusions of modern life. Activity without advancement. We think because we're doing a lot, we must be going somewhere. But the truth, most people are just spinning their wheels in the mud. They confuse movement with meaning. They think being busy is proof of progress. But look closer. Progress feels different. It has purpose. It has direction. It gives energy instead of draining it. When you're making progress, your days might be hard, but they feel alive. You feel pulled by something bigger, not pushed by pressure. When you're trapped, you don't feel pulled. You feel pushed by deadlines, by bills, by people's opinions. You say yes to things that don't matter because saying no feels like rebellion. You take the safe route because the unknown feels risky. But the real risk is staying stuck. It's a strange paradox. Most people fear failure, but what they're living is the slowest kind of failure there is. The failure to grow. The failure to live by choice instead of habit. The failure to become who they were meant to be. Being trapped also looks like this. You have ambition, but no clear aim. You want more, but you can't define what more means. More money? More recognition? More peace? You can't fix what you can't name, and so you chase everything and catch nothing. Brendon calls this the ambition without clarity problem. You're working hard, but toward what? You wake up with energy, but no direction. It's like having a powerful engine with no map. Eventually, you burn out, not because you're lazy, but because you're lost. And the world keeps feeding you distractions. You start comparing yourself to others, scrolling through highlight reels, wondering why they seem to be moving while you're standing still. But what you're seeing is surface. You don't see the battles behind their progress. You only see the illusion. And every time you compare, the trap tightens a little more. Sometimes, the trap even feels comfortable. That's what makes it dangerous. Routine gives you certainty. Familiarity gives you safety. But comfort is not the same as peace. Comfort keeps you asleep. Peace wakes you up. You might tell yourself, I'll change when I have more time. But time doesn't create clarity, intention does. You might think when I get promoted, I'll feel free, but external success never fixes internal confusion. The trap doesn't open from the outside. It opens from within. You start breaking it the moment you ask honest questions. Is this the life I chose or the one I settled for? Am I chasing goals that excite me or just goals that impress others? Am I living by design or by default? Brendon says awareness is the first door to freedom. You can't change what you won't face. And once you see the trap, you can't unsee it. That awareness becomes uncomfortable, but that discomfort is progress. It's the moment your life starts whispering, there's more for you than this. But here's what most people do next. They silence the whisper. They go back to the routine. They tell themselves it's fine, that they should be grateful, that wanting more is selfish. But it's not selfish to grow. It's not wrong to want expansion. It's not arrogant to want to live fully. Being trapped is not about failure. It's about settling for half-life. You're not failing because you can't do more. You're failing because you've forgotten you can. So before we talk about breaking free, pause and ask yourself, are you really living your story or someone else's? Are your days filled with meaning or just movement? Are you climbing the right mountain or just the nearest one? Because the worst kind of prison is the one you don't even realize you're in. And the first step to freedom is seeing the bars for what they are. When people think about why they're stuck, they often blame circumstances. They say it's the economy, their boss, their past, or just bad luck. But Brendon Burchard says the real trap isn't outside, it's built inside the mind. The walls that keep you small are not made of stone, but of stories you keep repeating to yourself. To understand freedom, you first have to understand what keeps you trapped. It begins with low ambition. Most people stop dreaming early in life. As children, they imagined great things, creating, traveling, building, helping. But somewhere along the way, They were told to be realistic. Don't dream too big. That's not possible. Just be grateful for what you have. And slowly those wild dreams turned into small goals. Goals that feel safe, achievable, predictable. Brendon says, most people don't lack the ability to achieve. They lack the boldness to dream. Ambition is the spark that starts everything. Without it, you drift. You settle for what's familiar instead of reaching for what's possible. The problem is when your ambition is low, you stop asking what if. You stop challenging your limits. You shrink your vision until it fits inside your comfort zone, and then you convince yourself that's where you belong. But low ambition is not laziness. It's fear disguised as acceptance. It's the belief that dreaming big will only lead to disappointment. So you aim low to protect yourself from pain, but in doing so, you also protect yourself from growth. That's how the trap tightens. Then comes the second cause, lack of clarity. You can't move forward if you don't know where you're going. Most people don't have a vision. They have vague wishes. They say, I just want to be happy, or I want success, but they can't define what that means. Happiness for how long? Success by whose standards? Brendon teaches that clarity is power. You need to know not just what you want, but why you want it. Because the why is what keeps you going when things get hard. Without it, your motivation fades. You start chasing everything that looks shiny, hoping something will stick. You try a bit of this, a bit of that, and when nothing feels fulfilling, you assume you failed. But the truth is, you were never aiming at anything specific. You were shooting arrows without a target. Clarity isn't just about setting goals. It's about defining meaning. It's asking yourself, who do I want to become? What kind of life do I want to experience? What will I stand for when it's not easy? When you answer those questions honestly, the fog starts to lift. But most people never stop long enough to ask. They're too busy reacting, too busy surviving. And that's how they stay trapped. The third reason people remain stuck is poor management of attention. Brendon often says, where your attention goes, your energy flows. In today's world, distraction is the new disease. Every notification, every scroll, every endless feed pulls you away from your purpose. You can't create a great life if your focus is constantly fractured. Attention is a limited resource. You can't waste it on everything and still expect to have enough left for what truly matters. But most people do. They spend hours watching other people's lives instead of building their own. They confuse information with insight, motion with meaning. The result, they end the day exhausted but unfulfilled. They've been busy but not intentional. Brendon's work on high performance highlights one truth: focus is freedom. When you learn to control your attention, you take back your power. You stop reacting to the world and start directing it. But that requires discipline. It requires saying no more often, even to good things. Because every yes you give to distraction is a no to your destiny. Then there's the fourth root cause: a weak emotional and mental state. This is what Brendon calls your affect. The emotional tone you carry through life. Some people live in a constant state of fear, doubt, or smallness. They've trained their minds to expect disappointment, so they stop trying altogether. They say, what's the point, or I'm not that kind of person. But that's not truth, it's habit. Feeling small doesn't mean you are small. It means you've rehearsed self-doubt for too long. You've repeated the story of not enough until it became your identity. Brendon says emotional mastery is the secret key to transformation. You have to learn to generate emotions that serve you: courage, joy, gratitude, confidence, rather than waiting for life to give them to you. That's why he always reminds his students, the power plant doesn't have energy, it generates it. You can do the same. You can generate motivation, confidence, and passion. But if you don't, life will default to the emotions that keep you trapped: fear, fatigue, frustration. And then comes the final cause, the silent killer of progress: accepting the status quo. Most people never challenge what normal means. They follow the script handed to them by society. Go to school, get a job, stay safe, retire quietly. They don't question whether that path actually brings fulfillment. They confuse stability with satisfaction. Brendon calls this the cage of comfort. It's comfortable because it's predictable, but it's still a cage. You stop exploring. You stop experimenting. You stop risking, and when you stop risking, you stop growth. Only happens when you step into uncertainty, And most people will do anything to avoid that. Why do so many accept being stuck? The first reason is fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of losing what they already have. They tell themselves it's safer to stay where they are. But what they don't realize is that stagnation has its own kind of pain. The pain of regret, the pain of wondering what could have been. Then there's comfort. Familiar routines can feel safe, even when they're unfulfilling. You know how the day will go. You know what to expect. Change feels uncomfortable, so you stay still. You tell yourself, it's fine, even when it isn't. Comfort becomes the cage you decorate with excuses. Social expectations make it worse. From childhood, you've been told what success looks like, career titles, salaries, possessions. You try to meet those expectations because you crave approval. You want to belong. But belonging at the cost of authenticity is just another form of imprisonment. You become the version of yourself that pleases others, but betrays your truth. And finally, there's one of the most dangerous myths, the belief that hard work alone is enough. Brendon often says hard work matters, but direction matters more. You can work yourself to exhaustion on the wrong things and still end up nowhere. Hard work without clarity just makes you tired. Hard work without ambition just keeps you busy. That's why Brendon teaches that motivation begins with higher ambition. True ambition doesn't push you, it pulls you. It's not about running faster, it's about being drawn towards something meaningful. When you have that pull, you don't need to be forced to act. You wake up with a reason. You stay focused because you're guided by vision, not pressure. Without ambition, you drift. Without clarity, you stall. Without focus, you scatter. And without emotional strength, you surrender. That's the anatomy of the trap. But once you raise your ambition, everything begins to change. When you decide to dream again, even if it scares you, you start to feel alive. And you start asking, what if I could? Instead of, why can't I? You begin to see possibilities where before you saw problems. That's the turning point. When you let your ambition rise, clarity follows. Your focus sharpens. Your energy lifts. You stop settling for survival and start reaching for significance. You stop letting life happen to you and start happening to life. And that's the first real step toward freedom. Brendon Burchard often says that success isn't just about strategy, it's about state. The emotional state you live in determines the quality of your life far more than your achievements ever will. You can know every tactic, every system, every goal-setting formula in the world, but if you wake up every morning feeling powerless, doubtful, or defeated, you'll never use any of it. Your emotions are not random. They are messages. They tell you what you believe about yourself and what you think is possible. When you feel small, it's not because life made you small, it's because you've practiced feeling small. The trap of mediocrity tightens when you lose faith in your own capability. You start believing that the big life is for other people, that success is for those with better luck, more talent, or more confidence. But Brendon reminds us, confidence is not a gift, it's a skill. You build it through action. You build it every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you push past hesitation, every time you do the thing you said you'd do, even when it's hard. That's how belief grows through evidence. You can't think your way into confidence, you have to act your way into it. Many people wait for motivation to appear before they move. They think, once I feel ready, I'll start. But readiness is a lie. The moment you feel ready, the opportunity has already passed. Brendon calls this the great misunderstanding of emotional mastery. You don't wait for the right emotion to act, you act to generate the right emotion. He uses a simple analogy. A power plant doesn't have energy, it generates it. The same is true for your emotions. You can generate positivity, you can generate joy, you can generate courage. These aren't traits you're born with, they're states you practice. When you act with intention, your emotions follow your motion. It begins with small steps. You don't have to rebuild your entire life in one day. Brendon teaches that small, consistent actions beat big, occasional bursts. A single moment of discipline repeated daily creates a lifetime of freedom. It's not the massive overnight transformation that matters. It's the small promise you keep to yourself again and again. When you do this, something powerful happens. You start to see yourself differently. You start to trust yourself again, And that trust becomes momentum. You begin to believe that maybe, just maybe, you can escape the trap. Brendon calls this building psychological momentum. Once you feel that forward motion, even in small doses, it begins to feed itself. Positivity grows from progress, not perfection. You begin to wake up with energy because you've proven to yourself that you can follow through. To sustain that energy, Brendon encourages people to set powerful challenges, not just tasks. A task is something you check off. A challenge stretches you. It forces growth. It demands more focus, more heart, more resilience. When you challenge yourself, you shift from surviving to striving. You stop living in reaction and start living in creation. You move from I have to I get to. That shift in language creates a shift in life. Building habits of clarity, ambition, and emotional resilience doesn't happen by chance. It happens through deliberate repetition. Every morning you ask, what matters most today? What will move me forward? Who do I want to be when this day ends? These questions build awareness, and awareness builds alignment. Clarity gives direction. Ambition gives fuel. Focus gives structure. Emotional resilience keeps it all alive when things get hard, because they will get hard. Every escape from the trap is met with resistance. Every new level of growth comes with friction. But resilience is the muscle that allows you to move through it, instead of collapsing under it. Brendon teaches that the true measure of freedom is alignment. When your actions match your values and your days reflect your deepest intentions, you no longer feel pulled apart. You stop living two lives, the outer one for others and the inner one for yourself. You merge them. That alignment brings peace, energy, and purpose. When you finally step out of the trap, life doesn't become easier, but it becomes real. You feel a new kind of freedom. You start waking up with gratitude instead of dread. You feel guided instead of lost. You stop chasing approval and start chasing impact. Freedom feels like this. You say yes to what matters and no without guilt. You're no longer performing for acceptance. You're expressing who you really are. Your time, your attention, your energy, they all begin to align with your truth. You find yourself creating, giving, contributing because you want it, not because you have to. You start noticing small joys again. The morning light, the quiet moments, the sense that you're moving in the right direction, even if you're not there yet. The difference is now you're awake. You're not sleepwalking through the days anymore. You're living them. And in this new space, purpose begins to bloom. Brendon says that purpose isn't something you find, it's something you choose. It grows from contribution, from service, from doing something that matters to you and for others. Once you begin to live with purpose, your energy changes, you move differently, you speak differently, you stop running on anxiety and start running on intention. That's what life after the trap looks like. More freedom, more alignment, more meaning. You're still human. You still face struggles, but your struggles are meaningful now. They're tied to growth, not stagnation. But there's one truth you can never forget. The trap doesn't disappear just because you escaped it once. It waits, it watches, it whispers. Old habits will try to pull you back. Comfort will call you home. The world will tempt you to settle again. That's why freedom requires vigilance. Brendon warns that the trap is not a one-time breakout, it's a lifelong practice of awareness. Every day you'll be asked to choose between comfort and growth, distraction and focus, fear and faith. Every day you'll have to remind yourself why you started. The mind loves to drift back into the familiar. It will tell you you're tired, that you've done enough, that slowing down means safety. But the truth is, safety is rarely safe. Stagnation is a slow kind of dying. That's why you must regularly revisit your aim, reconnect with your why, realign your attention, because attention is the steering wheel of your destiny. Wherever it goes, your life follows. When you feel yourself slipping back into autopilot, stop, take a breath, ask, where is my attention right now? Is it serving my growth or my comfort? Those small moments of self-awareness are how you keep the door open. Brendon believes freedom isn't found, it's maintained. It's a practice. It's a choice repeated every single day. You choose to rise. You choose to focus. You choose to believe. And over time, those choices become your identity. You're no longer the person who's trapped. You're the person who builds freedom. One decision, one emotion, one action at a time. And even though the trap may whisper, it can't hold you anymore. Because now, you've learned the most powerful truth. Freedom isn't somewhere you go. It's someone you become. Most people stay trapped, not because they're incapable, but because they stop believing they can rise. They lose ambition. They lose clarity. They lose focus. And with it, they lose emotional power. But that's not you, not anymore. You've seen the pattern, and now you have a choice. You can choose to step out of the cage, even if it's just one small move today. Ask yourself right now, what's one action I can take today to move closer to the life I actually want? It doesn't have to be huge, just real. One message you send, one task you finish, one promise you keep. Because the door to freedom doesn't swing open from luck. It opens with consistent action. So take that first step. Don't wait for perfect timing. Don't wait to feel ready. Start now. And imagine yourself 1 year from today, free, focused, and fully alive, aligned with who you truly are, moving forward with purpose and energy. That version of you is waiting. If this message spoke to you, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Let's rise together, one step, one choice, one breakthrough at a time.